Hustle culture glorifies you being busy 24/7, but in reality, busy doesn't actually mean productive. If you don't know me, my name's Haley. I'm your realistic and balanced bestie, helping you build a stronger brain and body. Today we're talking about productivity, and more importantly, we're talking about how to stop being lazy and how to stop feeling so overwhelmed by everything you have to do that you just end up doing none of it. We're breaking this down into 5 steps for you to follow to successfully enter your most productive and most fulfilled era ever. First, please be sure that you are following me on Spotify or subscribe to me on YouTube, because this really is the best way to help me and the best way to help get this info out to more people. You can also check out the description for a bunch of free resources to help aid you in your fitness and mindset journey. So let's start with what productivity actually is. Being productive is actually just about getting things done in an efficient way. Now, a lot of the problem lies in the fact that we normally have so much to do that we end up just not even knowing where to start, and then we wait for an absolute deadline and end up rushing to do everything that we can right before the deadline. So the first step to becoming productive is breaking out of that analysis paralysis that we end up getting stuck in when we don't know where to start with any project that we have. And analysis paralysis is something that I find myself stuck in literally all the time. It's like my brain moves at 1,000,000 miles per minute, and I just can't keep up with all of the things that I have to do, with all of the moving parts and all of the deadlines and all the tasks I have to do, and there's just so much happening and my brain just can't compute. So I find that the easiest way to battle this is just by getting everything out of your brain. Whether you're putting it onto paper, whether you're writing it into a computer, a phone, whatever it is, just get everything out of your brain and somewhere that you can actually look at it. And in this brain dump, you want to add absolutely everything that you could possibly think of. So things like doing the dishes, you want to add every task to a project that you might have to do, adding going grocery shopping, whatever it is, you are just dumping everything that you could ever have to do in the upcoming weeks, days, hours, whatever it is. And you want to spend at least 20 to 30 minutes doing this, because you're going to find that once you start writing things down, everything is just going to start to flow. And you're going to start to remember things that you didn't even remember that you had to do until you started making this list. And once you have this ginormous list, you want to start to break it down into types of tasks. So this is going to be one-time tasks, daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly, whatever it is, breaking it down into the frequency of these tasks. Now, you're probably still overwhelmed by the size of this list, so from here, we're going to start to break it down into categories. So you might have home tasks, personal tasks, admin tasks, project tasks, whatever it is, you want to start to break things down into categories that fit with your life. And simply having these broken down into categories that you can actually see is going to start to help you feel a little bit less overwhelmed, and it's going to give you a little bit better sense of what's a priority in each one of these categories. Now, we're actually not going to stop there, because step number 2 is what I like to call the planning stage. And this is because we are going to add even more things to this list to help simplify our life just a little bit more. So now that we have our categories, we are going to assess each one of the tasks on each one of these lists in each category, and we're going to break each task down into smaller tasks if possible. And you also want to add on to here things that you might not be thinking about. So things like cleaning out your email. You wouldn't just write down clean out your email onto this task list. You would break it down into clear out emails from March 2024, clean out emails from February 2024. You are breaking it down into smaller, more easily attainable chunks. Same thing with trying to clean out your photos. You might start with 2021, go to 2022. Whatever it is, you are simply making every single item on this list a little bit smaller of a chunk. And this goes for your work tasks too. So you might have had complete expense report on this list, but instead of just having that on the list, you're gonna break it down into going over all your transactions, finding receipts for your transactions, categorizing expenses, and then sending in the report. And having these even smaller tasks means that we might have to switch around the categories that they're in, because you might find that only one portion of a task is actually fitting into a certain category and the rest might fit into another category. And this is gonna help us a little bit more in our next step. Now, step number 3 is where we're going to talk about the most common productivity methods so that you can figure out which one works best for you, or if you want to do kind of a combination of all of them. The first method is time blocking, and this is the one where I really think everybody needs to find some kind of way to fit this into their daily life. Time blocking is where you group together any similar task that you have, so kind of like we just did with all of those categories, but you are only working on tasks in that one category for a specific amount of time. I highly recommend using an actual timer for this, or my new favorite hack is actually making a time lapse of me doing certain things, because not only does this get my phone completely away from me because it's stuck recording somewhere, but it just helps you to really focus on what you're doing in that current moment. And the amount of time that you choose for each time block is going to be completely dependent on you and your schedule, but I do find that doing 40 to 70 minute time blocks is really the most prime amount of time that you could do. I feel like anything longer than that is when your brain starts to get a little bit distracted and you start to really fall off of what you're doing currently. But anything less than that just isn't even enough time for you to really get focused on what you're doing and start to just zone in. The next method is habit stacking. And this is where you stack 2 habits or 2 reoccurring tasks together and do them at the same time every time you do them. And personally, I find it most productive if you can do this in a way where you tie a fun task together with a more productive or more boring task. For example, you might want to start walking on a treadmill every single day, so you pair scrolling on TikTok with this task. So now the only time that you are scrolling on TikTok is when you are walking on a treadmill. Or you might only allow yourself to listen to audiobooks while you're working on admin tasks. This is going to help associate these 2 tasks with one another in your brain so that whenever you start to do one task, you are automatically going to want to do the other as well. And this one can be really great if you're trying to break habits that you feel get in the way of your productivity, because by pairing them with something that is still productive, you're going to be a lot more likely to actually keep these tasks together and actually accomplish the productivity that you want. The next method is known as the 2-minute rule, and this can be really helpful on the days that you're just not in the mood. You really would rather do anything other than the task that you have to complete that day. So when I'm in one of these moods, I tell myself I just have to work for 2 minutes. And I tell myself that the 2 minutes is going to pass either way, so I might as well spend it doing 2 minutes of something productive than 2 minutes of anything else. Now, this is why it's really important to already have things categorized, because otherwise you're going to waste those 2 minutes trying to figure out what to do. But if you walk up to your to-do list and you see everything already broken down, you can easily be like, okay, I'm going to do this right now for 2 minutes. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you start to work on something for 2 minutes and then you end up actually getting maybe 20 to 30 minutes of work done because you just kind of locked in there. But I won't lie, sometimes I start with the 2 minutes and I stop at 5 minutes because I'm like, all right, I'm done. I said 2 minutes and that's it. And so on the days where I only do about 5 minutes of work, I tell myself that that's just better than nothing. And I'm listening to my body and my brain by stopping when I actually really want to give up. And the last method is really great for getting small tasks done. It's known as the 5-minute rule. And it's essentially the rule that if something takes less than 5 minutes, you should do it immediately. So if I notice that I have a lot of under 5-minute tasks on my to-do list, I might just set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes and see how many of those tasks I can get through in that short amount of time. I also just try to use this rule in my daily life. So if I'm doing something and I know it's going to take me less than 5 minutes to do in that moment, I try to just do it right then and there. So if I think, wow, I should really wipe down the counter today, instead of adding that to my to-do list to do, I'm just gonna do it right then because I know it's not gonna take more than 5 minutes and I would probably spend more time writing it on my to-do list than actually getting it done. Step number 4 is finding ways to make your life work with your goals. So we're gonna talk about how to optimize these 3 big areas of your life really quick. Number 1 being your schedule, number 2 being your environment, and number 3 being your phone. So when it comes to your schedule, you wanna figure out when your natural times of productivity are. This is gonna be completely different for everybody, but this is usually gonna be the time in the day where you find yourself just overwhelmed with creative ideas. You might get a little bit of a spark, you might get an energy burst, or you just might find that you're really zoned in on whatever you're working on during this time of day. So if you can adjust your schedule or just adjust some of the tasks that you do with this natural rhythm that you have, you're gonna find that it is so much easier to get things done and so much easier to stay focused on whatever you're doing. And obviously you can't always switch this around if you're a night owl, for instance, or you find that you get your creative burst in the middle of the night. I know you can't 100% switch your schedule around to do this, but this is a really great thing to just kind of keep in mind and see if you can add any tasks into that more productive time of day for you. For your environment, you want to try to make sure that everything around you is conducive to you getting shit done. So if you're working at your desk all day, you want to try to make it clear of anything that's going to distract you or just cause you to start worrying about other things other than what you're working on. You can also try to just keep things around you like noise canceling headphones or even keeping a timer for time blocking on your desk, making sure that the area around where you're working is just going to help you do work. And as for your phone, you can really turn it into a little productivity buddy if you use it right. I pretty much use app blockers to turn my phone into a brick multiple times a day. I will just lock every single social media app for 1 to 2 hours at different points throughout my day so that I can use those times to really make sure that I'm not getting distracted scrolling and that I can just actually focus on the things I need to focus on. And I personally do this because I do not have the willpower to stop scrolling. And I know that's embarrassing to say, but I can admit it, I'm self-aware. So I literally have to use these apps to force me out of them at certain times. You can also set up automations on your phone, at least for iPhones I know you can on the Shortcuts app, and you can trigger certain playlists to play at certain times. So maybe a white noise playlist or a brown noise playlist. I know a lot of people use brown noise for helping them focus, which I haven't personally tried, but I've heard great things about. Or you could even set it up to play a certain podcast or audiobook at a certain time. And last but not least, one of the most important steps to productivity is reflecting. You want to reflect each week on what went well the previous week, what didn't go well, and what you want to try in the upcoming week. And this isn't a one-size-fits-all that's going to magically make you productive for the rest of your life, because it's going to ebb and flow and things are going to change week to week, and what worked for you last week might not work for you in the upcoming weeks. And this is why you really have to take the time to reflect and understand what things might be affecting your productivity levels at different times of the month, of the year, whatever it might be. And once you start to understand what productivity methods work for certain tasks, or what schedule shifts work at different times of your life, this is where you're gonna actually be able to make a productivity method that works for you and is going to be foolproof. Because if you just tell yourself, I'm gonna start time blocking and that's it, I'm locked into that forever, there's going to be a time where that doesn't work for a certain project or for a certain mood that you're in, and you're just going to tell yourself, oh, well, I tried this and it didn't work, so productivity doesn't work for me. But if you start to reflect and you start to understand what the common denominators are of certain productivity methods with certain tasks, or certain productivity methods with certain times of your life, that is where you are going to find the magic formula for you. When you're reflecting, you also want to try to figure out if you're giving yourself enough time for self-care, because believe it or not, self-care is productive. Because if you're not taking the time to take care of yourself, you are almost guaranteeing that you are going to burn out no matter what you are doing. So being aware of this and taking time to reflect on this before it happens is a great way to prevent that and make sure that you can continue to be productive for as long as possible. Overall, you really just have to take advantage of the fact that your productivity lies in your hands. There is not a magical cure-all. There is not one video you're gonna watch that's magically gonna make you productive, and there's not one app that you're gonna buy that's magically gonna fix your to-do list and make you accomplish every single thing on it. But if you learned a new method that you plan on implementing, please tag me on Instagram at Haley Lene and let me know how you like it. And also let me know if there's anything that you try that I didn't mention in this video, because I want to try it. Because again, I think we should always be adding to our productivity formula and seeing what works for us and seeing if there's anything that we can add in that we haven't already tried before. But that is all that I have for you guys today. So until next time, be kind to your mind, to your body, and to others, and happy healing.